If you're relying on cardio as your fat loss foundation, if that's the primary mechanism for you to burn fat, stop, you're doing it wrong. That is not what cardio is primarily used for. Whilst it can be a tool for fat loss, it is not the primary tool you should be using for fat loss. There are much better ways to burn fat. Cardio is probably one of the last things that you need to add, the last weapon in your arsenal when it comes to fat loss. Okay, welcome to episode 19 of the Kayvman Show. We are finishing off our training block right now. We'll come back to training if you guys want to, but I just wanted to do a sort of quick 10 points on training just so that you guys had a good firm foundation for it. And then we'll move on to primarily mental and lifestyle things. But for now, we're finishing up on training. We're talking about cardio. Let's get into it. Let's define cardio. Cardio is from the root word of, I think, Latin for heart. We define cardiovascular work, cardiovascular training as training for your heart muscle, okay? Your heart is an organ, a muscle, possibly the most important organ or muscle of your body. It is the primary thing you should be training. You don't even think about it, but that is the primary thing that you're training when you're exercising. It's your heart. Because without your heart, you've got nothing. Cardio is very important. But what do we mean by cardio? When most people say cardio, they mean endurance, long, steady state endurance work. That does work your cardiovascular system, but it's definitely not the only way to work your cardiovascular system. There are ways to strengthen and thicken your heart and protect against heart disease. You should be doing high intensity and low intensity cardiovascular training. So you should be strengthening your actual heart muscle itself with high intensity work. So jacking your heart rate up for as high as possible. That's going to strengthen your heart muscle itself and allow it to beat harder and pump blood around your body better. The rest of the cardiovascular system is not the cardio element, which is your heart, it's the vascular element. And for the vascular element, you should be doing low intensity, steady state training. So I'm going to introduce the concept of the double lollipop. Imagine you got a lollipop and you got the stick and then you got the two bits of lollipop. Let's say grape and, I don't know, strawberry. You could think of this as an old school barbell, you know, those round ones. But for some reason, it's double lollipop in my brain, so that's the way it's going to stick. On either end of your double lollipop, you've got two extreme opposites. One is high intensity interval training, as people like to call it, so high intensity training. The other way is low intensity training, okay? So you need both. One is going to be short, hard, and fast, very high intensity training. Sprints, MMA, soccer. And then the other side is low intensity. So that's walking, hiking, maybe jogging, maybe running. Swimming is a great one. Something that's going on for a long time that keeps the heart beating at a relatively low intensity. Your heart is beating harder than usual, but it's a low enough intensity that you can sustain it for a long period of time. Walking is probably the best way of doing this. Like long walks, probably the best way, because you are having an elevated heart rate. I've done the metrics on myself and others. You'll go over 100 BPM and you'll just keep that. And you could do that all day. The beauty of it is it doesn't mess with your hormones, your cortisol system. It doesn't stress your body out per se. Actually, it kind of de-stresses your body. Because again, it goes back to nature. We are meant to be doing low intensity, steady state cardio. People in nature walk long distances because of our modern system of living where we're sitting, having our groceries delivered to us, driving to our friend's house, driving to the gym just to jump on a treadmill. It takes us out of the element of low intensity, steady state cardio that we would be doing in nature. We need to strike that balance. You should be doing low intensity, steady state cardio on a daily basis for your vascular system, okay? So your blood vessels, keeping your blood vessels open, keeping your heart pumping for long periods of time. Essentially, it opens your blood vessels and arteries and keeps them working, you know? Like otherwise, if you do not do those things, you are essentially just like a car going to rust and your blood vessels are going to shrink and get weaker and close, and then you're going to be in all sorts of problems, heart attack, stroke, etc. So you do need low intensity, steady state cardio for your heart, for your cardiovascular system. Yes, it will also burn fat. Some people are thinking, what about fat loss? Cardio is for fat loss. It will burn fat, but that's coincidental. It will burn calories, but that is not, as we've spoken about before, that is not my primary two ways of burning fat. And you should go back to the fat loss episode if you haven't heard about it before. Is number one, having an evolutionarily appropriate diet, which maximizes your energy output for minimal energy input. So eating the correct nutrients, micronutrients and macronutrients, will keep your metabolism high for the lowest amount of calories. Even if you're eating fat or sugar from fruit, your metabolism will go up and you will be satisfied earlier, so your calories in and calories out equation is maximized. And then the second element is to have as much healthy muscle on your frame as possible, which will also jack up your metabolism and help you stay lean. It will lower your leanness set point, so you don't have to directly think about burning fat through things like cardio or even through weightlifting. The way to lean a body is through a proper diet and having muscle on your frame. That is going to keep you lean and healthy and sexy too. Fat loss. We're not talking about fat loss. We're talking about cardio. We've spoken about low intensity, steady state cardio. That's one end of the lollipop. And now we're going to ignore the middle, ignore medium, forget about it. So hard jogs, long hard jogs, forget about that. And then we're going to focus on high intensity interval training, right? What would naturally occur in a game of soccer, basketball, rugby, wrestling, MMA, or many things that we would do in nature, right? You'd be working really hard and then you would recover. And it's this spike, high spike to low recovery. That is the foundational principle of high intensity training. Whether it's weightlifting, sprints on a treadmill, soccer, MMA, or Tabata training, you're trying to jack up your heart rate as high as possible. I'm going to caveat this. If this isn't safe for you, consult your doctor. But it's safe for most people, and most people should be doing this, or at least working your way up to do this. This should be in your life. You need high intensity cardio training. There are infinite forms. The Airdyne bike, sled training. At my gym, Beyond Fitness LA, we do a lot of metabolic conditioning, which is really hard cardio followed by rest. Not just constant medium intensity training. Battle ropes, medicine ball slams, sled training, sprints, box jumps. You can do it with so many different things. What you're trying to do is find the pattern, and that pattern is high intensity training, right? A sprint of some sort, and then recovery, and then another sprint and recovery. Why is the recovery so important? Why is it important to recover as fully and completely as possible? Without the low, you don't get the high. That's a principle of the universe, and it's a principle of physical training. Without dropping down into recovery, you cannot get a high. If you play soccer, I do MMA. In those sports, if you're constantly working, and there are positions on the soccer field, and there are fights where you may need to be constantly working, a very steady thing. But generally speaking, the more you can kind of find moments of chill, the more you can jack that heart rate up again. You can work harder. So a guy like Leo Messi is very famous for walking more than anyone else on the field. They did studies on this guy, and he's the GOAT, let's be honest. They found that he walks a lot, stands around and does nothing for long periods of the game. In those moments, he's actually scanning the field, looking for weaknesses in the opponent, using his brain, but not his body. What that allows him to do is, when the moment arrives that he needs to be at 100%, he is faster than everyone else. He probably doesn't have the best 100-meter sprint. You know, he's very short, right? And he's not a sprinter, let's be honest. But because he picks his moments, he is going to have been fully recovered and be able to sustain high-intensity sprint that makes a difference between him beating 3 or 4 opponents, if you've ever seen him play, and him getting tackled at the second or third. So again, this principle of recovery, dropping down into recovery mode and then spiking, works for muscle gain. It also works for cardio. And you want these two ends of the lollipop. Let me give you an RX here. Let me give you a prescription. You want at least once a week, and we've covered this in sprinting, you want some type of as hard as possible with elements of recovery, that kind of spike we talk about, high intensity interval training. Sprinting on a treadmill was my RX for the last time. That works for this. You could do sled training, you could do boxing. If you were to do this through boxing, for example, what we do at my gym, 40-second rounds as hard as possible, and then you stop for 20 seconds. You don't jog, right? You stop. And you wait and you breathe and you get your heart rate as low as possible. And then you jack it up for the next round as high as possible for 40 seconds, okay? You can extrapolate this out and do it for whatever type of training you're doing. Kettlebell swings work. On the other end, we've got low intensity, steady state training. So that could be swimming, it could be hiking. For me, I just let's make it easy, walking. Walking is great. Just 10,000 steps a day is what I do. Minimum. I usually get more, about 7 miles. But hit your 10K a day. If you can only do 8K a day, then do 8K. Try to aim for at least 10,000 steps a day, because that's low intent. That just means you're active, moving your body. Your blood is pumping through steady state throughout the day. That is healthy. Just like a car, it's going to keep the pipes healthy, keep your blood vessels healthy, and not allow things to rust and plaque to build up. Keep those blood vessels nice and open and keep that blood flowing throughout the body. So you've got your cardio element with your heart, which you want to work as high intensity as possible with recovery. And then you got your vascular system, which is your blood vessels, arteries and veins. You want to keep those open with a good diet, 100%. With regard to training, make sure you are doing low intensity, steady state cardio for long periods of time. The easiest way to do that is just get your 10K a day. All right, build that into your program. Let me know how that goes. I'd love to hear back from you guys, and let me know if you're enjoying that, if you did it. I'll see you on the next one.